This is Allison Thompson, the Director for Marshall Public Library, representing the Friends of the Library Oral History Project. This afternoon, I am speaking with Lois Norton. On August 25th, 2015, we are at Burnside's Community Health Center in Marshall, Illinois. And Lois is going to tell us a little bit about herself. Lois, could you tell me where you were born?
Yes, I was born in Clark County at home and in the country at Marshall, Illinois.
Who were your parents?
Carl and Bess Norton.
And did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I had two brothers, Robert and Dale, and then I had two sisters, Edith and Virginia.
And how long did you live in that house?
Well, in the house.
Where you were born?
Well, no, I don't remember that.
Did you grow up there at the same house
No,
for most of your life?
And then the house that I remember that I grew up in, we moved to what they call Bullskin. You know where Bullskin is? Down by the river. And then from there to Oak Grove, and there from town. Then.
Okay. Your memories in Bullskin, how old were you when you lived in Bullskin?
Excuse me?
How old were you when you lived in Bullskin?
I was probably about 5 or 6. And I grew up there, and I was about 12 when we moved away.
What's your favorite memories about growing up in Bullskin?
The river. We could see the river from our house, and I enjoyed Bullskin. We went to Cooper Chapel Church, Liberty Square School, and I made a lot of friends, even though I was little, and I just enjoyed it.
What was your favorite thing you enjoyed about the river?
Summer. Summertime.
Now, was it considered dangerous, though, for you to play near the river?
What was it?
Was it considered dangerous near the river?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we could sit on our porch and see the river, and after a rain, we could see it coming up and creeping and getting our crop. I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
But we made out okay. My dad was a good farmer.
How many acres did your family farm?
Down there, I believe we had 80. And of course, we moved to a bigger farm, and it had more acres. And I enjoyed every place we did move. I'd take a walk in the woods, and I saw all of the animals that was in there, and the birds, and I loved doing it.
Did you help on the farm?
I was too little.
Too little to help?
Yeah, too little to.
So what were some of the chores you did?
Well, I do remember riding, you had to ride the corn planter then, and my dad said, Lois, you can ride the corn planter today, and I thought, oh boy, that'd be good. So he fixed a seat, for me. But I got so tired and so sleepy before we got through. But I did ride. It was fun.
Now, when you were a little girl, tell me about education and school. What was it like then? Because you said you were at, what school was it again?
At Liberty Square. Liberty Square. And then Oak Grove.
Okay.
I can't remember Liberty Square too well, but I do remember Oak Grove. And Marie Fraker, I don't know whether you know her or not, but she was my teacher, and she was well known, and she was a good teacher. But what I remember most about her, she would read to us a chapter out of a book, a good book, every morning about 30 minutes before we'd start school. And she would put a lot of expression in the characters, and that stuck with me. I like it.
That's a nice memory.
Yes, it is.
It's a nice memory. How many children were in the schoolhouse with you?
How many? You know, I really can't remember, but I would say around 20 some.
And they were all ages?
Yes. Yeah,
So
all 8
tell me
grades.
about that, because it's so different now.
Yeah, it's a lot different
It
now.
is.
We, in the summer, well, when you go in, there'd be a cloakroom. And we'd hang up our coats and put our dinner buckets up on a shelf. And we all ate together. And I remember Mrs. Frecker would tell us, it's time to eat, close your books. So we would do that, and it was a joy, really. But what I remember about Billy Hornbrook, I said his name, I don't think he'd mind. He's in California now. But he sat by a window, and my brother sat there with him. And Billy would punch Dale, and he would say, I'm going to jump out this window and come around and knock on the door. And he would do that, and Marie, she never caught on. And of course Dale wouldn't tell.
So then he'd hop back through the window and get back in his seat?
Yes.
Before she...
Yeah, he would, because it was the last seat there, and he'd just slip in there. She would be writing on the blackboard.
Oh,
you know,
sure. Sure. And she never caught on.
Yeah.
That's funny. What a good memory. So what was it like growing up in the country? What was your neighborhood like?
It was we had nice neighbors, and I remember I took piano lessons from Mrs. Frecker, my teacher, and we had a pony, and I'd ride the pony up about 3 miles to her house from ours. And one time on the way home, I dropped all my music, and it scattered all over the road, and his name was Champion. He stopped immediately while I got off and picked it all up.
That sounds like a good horse.
He hadn't been trained, no. He just knew to do that.
Good horse. How old were you when you did that?
I was about 12.
So how far did you have to walk to school?
About a mile, I would say.
Okay.
Give or take a few.
Sure.
And also to our mailbox. We lived next to the last house at the end of the road. And anyway, we would walk up to get our mail at the corner, and it wasn't very far from the school.
Sure. So you did a lot of outdoor activities.
Yes.
When you were,
yes, I did.
What are some of the favorite memories or things that you did as a child? Swimming.
Yep.
Sure.
I learned to swim in the river.
Oh, that scares me.
My dad taught us. He taught my Virginia and I and Dale, but Robert was just a baby. He passed away when he was an infant, and but Edith didn't care for swimming, but I loved it. I really did. And then I graduated to the Y at Paris.
Oh, yes.
And I would go up there and swim.
Mm-hmm. So you did swimming as a sport then after that?
Yeah, I did.
Neat. Was there any other sports? Were there any other activities?
When I was swimming at Paris, my sister lived at Paris, and I would swim 20 strokes and then go out to her house for breakfast.
Oh, that's...
And then go home. And I'd usually take someone with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Were there any other sports or activities that you...
Walking, I loved that. And I got into baseball once, but the first guy that threw the ball hit me right there in the mouth.
Oh, and that ruined it.
Yeah, and that ruined it. No more baseball.
Are there any childhood friends that stand out in your memory?
Yes, I had several. We called her name is Gertie Mae Spencer. Gertie Mae Laverta now. Do you know her? And we still talk to each other on the phone. And our birthdays were the same day.
Oh, fun.
And I remember one time we were playing a piano solo at, they called them community meetings instead of PTA. And we laughed all the way through it, just giggled. And of course, when I looked at Mom, you know how she gave me a frown, but I just couldn't sober up. But we had fun.
So did you, from the schoolhouse, did you start at Marshall High School? Is that when you first
Yes.
went? Okay.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, we did. We moved to Marshall, and I did go to high school.
Mm-hmm. Tell me some of your favorite memories from high school.
Well, I tell you, I didn't have too many. I didn't care for high school. I just didn't like the school. But I remember Gertie Mae and I skipping school. I remember that. That's not a good memory.
So I was going to say, you guys did that back then?
Yeah. And then Mom found out through my report card, and she wanted to know where I had gone and what I had did. So she wanted to know everything.
I was going to say, so what did you do?
We walked out to Velsico.
Uh-huh.
Were you familiar with Velsico?
I am, but tell me about it.
My dad worked there, and I remember standing on that bridge and looking over, and they could have seen us. We never thought of that then, but and then we talk about that every time we get together. Gertie Mae said she was scared. She said, "I think it was your idea." I said, "It probably was."
What are your memories of Velsico?
What?
What are your memories of Velsico?
Well, I remember everybody said it smelled like money. You know, there wasn't an oil odor. And I had friends that worked there, and then it left, and I didn't want it to because it was good for Marshall, you know. That's just about it, I believe. And I went to, well, I mentioned Cooper Chapel Church, and then we didn't have a church at Oak Grove, and we met in the schoolhouse, and then we started going, everybody, to Livingston Church. You know where Livingston is? And I have a lot of memories there, too.
When you were in high school, did you ever date?
Yes.
Tell me what it was like to court someone during that time, or dating was like during that time.
I remember Jim would come every Wednesday and Friday night, and he was always there.
Jim
Wilkins.
Okay.
He's gone now.
Okay.
And I liked him real well. He was friendly and nice. And then, I don't know, we just got away from each other.
So if you went out on a date with somebody, what did you do when you went out on a date?
We went to movies. Then Marshall had a theater, and if we didn't like that movie, we'd go to Terre Haute.
And what was the name of the Marshall Theater? Do you remember?
What?
What was the name of the Marshall Theater?
Strand.
Strands. Okay.
And then it changed hands, and Pythian.
Pythian. Now, where was that located?
Across from the courthouse on the north corner.
Okay. Is that where the Phoenix Theater is now? Is that,
yes.
Okay.
That's where it is.
That's where the theater was. Okay. After high school, tell me what happened. Where did you start working? Did you continue your education? Did you get married? Tell me what about your life after high school.
I took a Billy Graham course through Mayo, and I graduated in high colors. And then I went to work for Caldwell's, and I worked there 15 years, and I liked it a lot. I made a lot of friends there. Oh,
I bet. What did you do at Caldwell's?
I was a clerk.
Okay. And what does Caldwell's do? What was Caldwell's?
It's a Chinese restaurant now.
Okay. And where was it?
On the corner of 6th Street close to, you know, where Richard Eubank's insurance office was.
So on the corner of 6th and Archer?
Yeah, and his office was on one side of the street and Caldwell's was on the other side.
Now, what did Caldwell's, though, do? It was...
Well, it was more like a dime store.
Okay.
It's a variety store. And they had everything. So it was interesting.
So you could buy anything you wanted at Caldwell's.
Yeah, almost.
There you go. So clothing, food, too? Did they have food as well?
No, they had a candy counter.
Okay.
I remember that. But no food.
No food? Did you marry?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. No, that's not a problem.
Okay.
What were some of your pastimes that you had?
Every time I had time off, I'd go swimming.
You still love to swim, even after high school?
Yeah, I enjoyed swimming a lot.
Where would you swim after high school? Would you still go to the YMCA?
Yeah, I stayed with it, but then I would go on vacation and I'd swim too. And I had a lot of fun growing up.
Oh yeah. So what were some of your vacation memories?
Going to Florida to my aunts and uncles, and they had a swimming pool. So I enjoyed swimming there too.
Did you enjoy swimming in the ocean? Because it's a little bit different.
Yeah, we did. We went swimming in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it's a little different than a pool or...
Yeah, and after we'd gone swimming there, my uncle wrote us a letter, and he said, guess what? They saw a shark in Tampa Bay last week. So we had missed that, which I'm thankful.
Yeah.
I remember one time I did sort of dog paddle out in the ocean, and the big wave came in and took me out farther, and when I looked around, it scared me because I couldn't see any people, and I swam back. Debbie and my sister said I was just a dog paddling real fast and swim. It scared me.
I bet. I bet. I had a similar experience once in the ocean.
Yeah, it was the first time I had learned that a big wave would come in, you know. But it did.
Now, after you worked at Caldwell's, what did you do?
What did I do?
After Caldwell's.
Oh, after Caldwell's. I came here at Burnside's, and I worked 38 years.
Oh, so you worked here.
Yep.
And what did you do here?
I was a CNA, and then also we had the emergency room that Burnside's had to take care of then, and until Terre Haute bought it. And I helped Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Banning, and Dr. Buechler.
So tell me about some of your memories of Dr. Mitchell.
Yeah, he was a wonderful person, and he liked to talk, you know. And after the patient would leave, he'd talk about his trips that he took. And that was interesting. And Millie would come with him.
What memory stands out the most as far as him maybe helping a patient?
Millie.
No, Dr. Mitchell.
Oh, well, he would doctor them. And the emergency room was always busiest at night because that's when accidents happen. And I remember one particular night, Dr. Mitchell called over to the nursing home, and he said, Lois, you better come over here. So I went over, and or Mary Turner and I did. She was a nurse, and a girl had a baby on the bus, and she wouldn't give him their name. And my job was to take all the information. And she wouldn't tell me her name at all. She said, I don't want this baby, and I'm going to give it away. So she said, I'm not going to name it. And she did. Of course, I lost track of the baby then. But after Dr. Mitchell delivered the baby, he gave it to me to hold. And the baby was just as sweet as it could be. And I walked over to her. I said, look, take a look at your baby. I said, you probably want to keep him. She says, nope. I don't know what her problem was, but she had a problem.
Wow. Wow, that's hard. That's hard to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Dr. Mitchell. What were the other doctors' names?
Dr. Buechler.
Okay.
He's at Union. He's retired now, maybe. I'm not for sure. And Dr. Mackey. Do you know Dr. Mackey? Mm-hmm. And Dr. Banning.
Now, Dr. Buechler, what is a favorite memory of him that you have, maybe working with a patient?
Well, we had a lot of emergencies with him, and he was quite stern. He knew his business, and he was really good at it. And I remember one night someone had come in. They were shooting at home, just shooting cans or something. And as his wife came out the door, and the bullet hit her.
Oh goodness!
And after it wasn't that serious, but he did hit her. But after it was over with, Dr. Buechler gave him a good talking to. You can count that. Dr. Mitchell would have too.
And what about Dr. Mackey? What's a favorite memory of him working with a patient that you remember?
Well, his first memory, his last memory, I guess, he came over to the nursing home to see his residents, and I came around the corner, and he said, am I going to have to call civil service in to make you quit? It was time for me to quit.
How old were you before you finally retired?
I was in my 70s.
In your 70s. Mm-hmm. And do you mind my asking, how old are you today?
Yes. Well, no particular memory after that.
How old are you today?
What?
How old are you today?
85.
85. Mm-hmm. 85. Neat memories. Those are neat memories. You've been through a lot of events in our history. You've lived through a lot of events. Is there any local or historical events that you remember growing up that kind of stand out in your mind? Like,
yeah, I remember at Liberty, it was Liberty Square. No, Oak Grove School. Marie Fraker, when we went to work, she said, have you had your radio on? Well, the radio was on, but I didn't pay attention to it. And she said, Japan bombed a big ship in Hawaii. And that was the beginning of World War I. I remember that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What was the community like when they found out about that? What do you remember people doing?
During the war?
Yeah, when they found out about the bombing, what were people saying and what were people doing?
Well, it kind of stunned them. It just seems like they went to church and had prayer. I remember going there. But then when it was over, they did the same thing. And but they also had parties in the street and in the restaurants too.
When it was over?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, they did.
Did you ever, were you in the service at all?
No, okay. I wasn't. Mm-hmm.
Did you have any family in the service?
I had no, not during World War II, but my brother Dale went to the Korean War. Mm-hmm.
Was he in combat? Did he?
No, he didn't. He wanted to, but he didn't. Mm-hmm. He was a maintenance man on an airplane.
Okay.
or he fixed airplanes. Was maybe I better say that.
Now you mentioned the doctors when you worked at Burnside's. What are some of your favorite memories about Burnside's working here, since you worked here for so many years?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, if you call it fun. They're about all gone now, shortly after they retired. But yes, Lula Lindley and Helen Miller and Mary McGee. Do you know any of them?
I don't.
Becky, it's Becky Kreibler now, and we had a lot of fun. We really did. We did our work, I know that, but there were times that we didn't have work to do, and we'd sit out in the dining room. Then the buzzers would start ringing, and we'd have to jump up and run and answer them, of course. That was our job. And it seemed like we'd have we'd eat. Somebody'd bring a snack or something, and I'd make iced tea for everybody. I'd go down to the break room and make iced tea, bring up to them because it was hot.
Are there any residents over the years that you have particularly fond memories of?
I believe that was the happiest time of my life when I did start at Burnside's and I could work with the girls then. I liked it real well.
Were there any people who you helped who were living at Burnside's that you remember bonding with?
Excuse me, I got a cold today. No, not particular. I can't remember any particular one. We had boys that worked there too. Don, I can't think of his last name, and Don, we had two Dons, I know that, but if a certain light would come on that I didn't really want to answer, or Don didn't want to answer, he'd say, "Lois, I'll trade you. If you'll answer that light, I'll answer the next one." So we had a lot of fun.
Well, I'm sure some were easier to take care of than others.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I'm sure. Over the years, you've seen a lot of change.
Yeah.
What are some of the changes you've seen at Burnside's?
You mean now?
From when you started to now?
Yeah, well, I know it seems like we had more order when I worked there. And I noticed some of the girls are loud now, and we weren't loud. Our nurses wouldn't allow it, I know that. And anyway, I worked with the nurses a lot in the emergency room. Mary Turner and was the main one, and she was really a good nurse. She has passed away now. And I can't remember just one particular memory of that.
Some of the changes you've seen over the years are in technology.
Yes.
So, it used to be that you would have the bell telephone. Did you grow up with the bell telephone?
Yep. I remember we got when the first, after I left the store and went to work for Burnside's, I got a call in, or I was the one closest to the phone. So I picked it up and I said, "Caldwell Notion." and whoever was on the other line just left. He said, "I knew that was going to happen," he said, someday, because I had just left Caldwell's.
I've done that before too.
Yeah.
I've done that. Are there any other technology changes that you really have stand out?
Well, yes, the way they take the pulse now, put your finger in, and shows a pulse. And then, yeah, there's a lot of new things here. It's nice. I didn't want you to think that I tattled anything, but I did. I can see a lot of changes.
Well, even television.
Yes, there's changes every day.
Right, right. So you grew up prior to television, and then saw television invented. What do you remember about that? About television being invented?
Well, when we first got our TV, some neighbors came over to watch it. They hadn't got theirs just yet, but they did later. And the programs are all different. They're not as good as they used to be. I like Red Skelton and comedy and good movies too. The older movies are better than the new movies.
What was your favorite movie?
Gone with the Wind.
Oh, sure.
Let's see. Well, I can't think of it now. It's in my mind, but I can't think of the name of it. But it was good.
Now, what about refrigeration? Tell me about what you did prior to refrigerators and then after you had refrigerators.
You mean air conditioning?
Well, refrigerators and freezers.
Oh yeah. They have freezers now, and well, that's about all I can say, I guess.
Do you remember it being different when you were little?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Well, we had an ice box when I was little growing up. And we'd get big chunks of ice.
And that's how you kept things cold.
Yes, it did. And the Iceman we'd all stand around looking at him, I guess. He'd chip off some ice and hand to us, and we'd put it in our mouth. Mom would say, "Now you should wash that." We were in too big of a hurry.
Are there any other favorite memories you want to share?
I enjoyed Livingston Sunday School and church, and very much. I played the piano there when I was little, and I remember the congregation singing with my music, and I was so proud. I knew I couldn't play very good, but they sang, and if I made mistakes, they didn't tell me.
How long did you do that?
Well, I really don't remember that. Probably about a year or so. And then we elected another pianist. Someone moved in the neighborhood. We had, us kids would get in cars after church and drive around and around the Tasty Freeze. Do you remember doing that?
Oh, I do. Of course, it's Dairy Queen for us that we did that. We would drive around.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember your first vehicle?
What?
Do you remember your first car or vehicle?
No, it was probably a Ford.
I think that seems to be what most people's first car was. Was a Ford.
That.
Yeah. Is there anything you would change or do differently?
What?
Is there anything you would change or do differently in your life?
Well, no. I can't think of anything right now special.
Well, I sure appreciate you talking with me today.
Well, I hope I said the right things.
You did.
And not too much.
No, you did fantastic. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.